Now we're going to show you some of the techniques in the Halloween quilt in Book 2, Well-Seasoned Quilts. We're going to show you this little scarecrow and the witch. There's just a few fun techniques that are unique to these. We'll begin with the scarecrow. We've Xeroxed our pattern and we foundation pieced 1, 2, 3, 1 being the post for the scarecrow. Now the little unique technique to this, hopefully you understand paper piecing, so watch some of our other videos if you don't. We've got a little rag pant that we're going to put in here for the scarecrow, so it's a little bit different. I folded out this area between this 3 and 4 and the edge of the pant, and that will transfer that location here. Now I have 2 pieces of fabric stacked together to make my rag pant, and I'm going to place them one end 1/4 of an inch past that fold, that inside fold, the inside of the leg, and to the edge of the pant. Then I'm going to place a piece of background fabric so that it will cover all of that area, and turn it over and sew on that seam, and when it folds back it will fold back like this, where the pant will have this rag edge, and we'll clip it, and then we'll foundation piece the piece next to it. We'll show you what that looks like. Okay, here we finished this side. Now when you paper piece this one, make sure you leave enough fabric that goes way above here. You can see that. So it maybe sews to here, but you need to have enough fabric to cover this area up here too. Okay, now I'm going to crease where the next pant leg comes into the seam and the edge of the pant leg, and that will give me the markings here on this side. I'm going to do the same thing. Place, this needs to be right side down. Ooh, let's see there. I'm going to put right sides together. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to put the edge of the pant leg right where that bottom fold is, so that it's going to fold back like a pant leg, and it's past the other inseam fold. Now this is my background that's going to go underneath it, and I want to make sure that it's wide enough, big enough up here too, to cover this area up here. And I'll turn it over so this whole seam folded back, and I'll show you what that looks like. Here I've finished foundation piecing this piece here, and I've ragged the little edges. Now I can stuffing up in here and make it a little more dimensional, which is really fun. Now I'm going to turn it over and machine baste where the arms go into this seam, and that will transfer the location to this side. Now the dimensions for the sleeves are in the book, but it's several layers, so I fold it like this, and then I'm going to put the raw edges above that basting. I'm going to cut and rag these edges, and then the dimension for the body is also in the pattern, and I've added these little ribbons, which I'm going to tuck under like that, clip, and put a button for suspenders, and then that is going to go above the line as well. Then I'm going to cut a piece of background fabric, place it right side down so the bulk of the fabric's opposite where I'm going to cover, turn it over and sew this whole line on, and we'll show you what that looks like. Okay, we foundation piece this last piece. We turned it over and machine based where the hat and the head go into the seam, and that gives us the location here on this side. We're going to place this little head 1/4 of an inch above that basting, then the brim of his hat, and then the crown of the hat, and I'm going to pin all that. Now when I've stuffed the face, I kept it away from the seam, because that adds a lot of bulk if you do that. It's bulky enough. Then I'm going to cut a piece of background fabric, place it right side down so the bulk of the fabric is opposite where I'm going to cover. Turn it over so that whole seam, and we'll show you what that looks like. We finished that seam that enclosed the hat and the head and put doll hair. You just cut a bit of it and go up and down, catching the curls till it kind of stays in place. Seed beads for the eyes, blush for the cheeks. We've added our buttons, tacked our little hat brim down. And we can, if you want, a little extra, add some raffia, just like this. And I would take needle and thread and poke it up like that if you want. He's really cute. He's just darling. He's not that hard. Now we'll show you the witch. Okay, we begin our witch by copying our skirt pattern, putting it on top of 2 pieces of fabric that are right side together, and just sew along this bottom line and then cut on the outside dash line. So it's only going to be sewn on the bottom. And then we've placed, this is a copy of the witch block. We started with number 1, placed it as background, and then we machine basted the sides where the skirt is placed. And then we've put the open ends of the skirt a 1/4 of an inch past that basting, and I went ahead and sewed it down just so I wouldn't have a million little pins. And I sewed it on the outside of the line so that when I sew that seam, that won't show. Then I cut background fabric that I'll place right side down. So the bulk of the fabric's opposite of where I'm going to cover. I'll turn it over and sew that whole seam, and it will fold back like that. Now I've gathered the top of the skirt, and I've held the bottom with pins, and I'm going to kind of steam that so that it will lay in these neat little curves. And once I add these sides, I'll show you the next step. Okay, I've added section 2 and 3 background, and then I turned it over, machine basted where the little sleeve goes into the seam, and that gave me this marking on this side. And I've pre-made my sleeve, and I'm going to put the raw edge 1/4 of an inch above that line. Then I'll foundation piece this next part by cutting a piece of fabric, placing it so the bulk of the fabric's opposite where I'm trying to cover. Turn it over so that whole line, and it will fold back and cover. Now to make my sleeve look like a sleeve, I'm just going to take some black thread. Of course, this will be still in this seam. I'm going to take some black thread, just with really big stitches, stitch it up, and that's going to suck up my sleeve so it will separate like that. And we'll show you what that looks like next. Okay, we've added that piece and gathered our sleeve. We turn it over and machine based where the head and the hat go into the seam, and that gives us this location on this side. And then we're going to place the little head centered 1/4 of an inch. I've added a little extra batting or stuffing into that head, but I've kept it away from the seam. Then the brim of the hat 1/4 of an inch past, and then the little crown, pointed crown like that. And then we'll foundation piece this last piece with background. We'll show you that. Here's our finished witch, and she's just darling. We've added a bow, we've added her little doll hair, tacked things down, a little blush on the cheeks, and seed beads for the eyes. And these little guys go into a collage of Halloween things that are just darling. But these were the trickiest part of that quilt. So I hope you look at the whole quilt. It really is darling. And I hope this has helped you.